In 1922, James Scullin was begged to run in Labor's safest seat. So James Scullin lost Corangamite in 1913. I've never heard it said out loud. Could be terribly mispronouncing it. We're working with it. He loses it in 1913 in the Liberal landslide towards Joseph Cook. There was only a landslide in the lower house, not the upper house. This isn't Mr. M history. This is Mr. M Labor. Let's get back on track here. But he tries to get it in 1918 and he fails in 1918. But the party ends up begging him in 1922 to take the safest seat of Yarra. Why did they end up begging James Scullin to, like, he's a failed politician. He lost his seat in 1913. He lost it again in 1918. Why did they beg for him to come back? Well, quite simply, it was because he brought a whole new tent under the banner of the Labor Party. So for a long time, the Labor Party forbade members of the Australian Catholic Federation of being part of their party. They had about 45,000 members in the middle of World War I. And Scullin basically made the case of, hey, we need to have these guys under our tent. But James Scullin made the argument that the Catholic Federation was much more of a religious grouping than a political organization, and basically made the case for them to be able to have dual membership. And that brought a lot of people under the banner of the Labor Party. These were people that were working class, that belonged to their union and stood in direct contrast to the majority Protestant Liberal Party. And Scullin actually got them to be formal Labor members that were now attending branches. Scullin was based out of Ballarat, and he had that country wisdom that a lot of people from mining towns tend to have. And basically, as an Irish Catholic, he recognised the asset that they could be to the Labor Party. And because they had all of these organic relational networks, like a common meeting space and a shared faith together, he recognised just how quickly the Labor, I guess for lack of a better word, market could grow across this market share. And the reason why this is really valuable is A, not only does it actually just boost the overall standing of the party and exec likes that, but secondly, it shows that you're able to bring a new banner of people under the Labor Party tent. And that is obviously the most valuable skill to have when campaigning for an election. But I would even add a third point in there as well. And James Scullin being able to do that showed that he could be trusted on enemy territory and that he could handle his away days. Like, I'll show you this clip right here of the South Australian election. This is no shade at anyone in the Labor Party whatsoever, but we've got this new phenomenon of One Nation that are doing a lot of gotcha politics, and one of the, I guess, most recent shock jocks, Joanna Cole, has come forward to attack Labor on a pro-choice decision.
Oh, hello. How are you? Good to see you. How are you? How are you today? Good. Laura, do you want to come around? I just wanted to do a quick interview, Nat.
No, okay.
So, Nat, Laura, you've got to get in front so you can see us. So, Nat, you passionately... No, I just want to ask you a question. I'm not...
No, you're harassing me.
I just want to ask you a question. Nat, you are supporting...
I'm being harassed out here.
Nat,
I'm being harassed.
I'm not harassing. I just want to... I'm a voter and I want to ask a question. I'm a voter and I want to ask a question.
No, you're not my voter. You don't live near me.
I live here.
Can I have some assistance out here, please?
Now, for me, the abortion issue is just 101 in being able to understand the other side of the point. It's pretty straightforward. It's in the name. One side values autonomy and choice. The other side values the preservation of life. Both sides have ways in which they distort that and twist that to make some pretty unreasonable cases. And it's really just a case of what side of that debate do you fall on. And so it's quite, in my opinion, it's a very easy one to pivot, particularly if you've spent a lot of time amongst conservative circles. You can just go something to the effect of, oh, look, people are free to voice their own consciences within the party, and then we come to a unanimous decision together and we support that decision. You know, you could even go the other end and just go that abortion is a complex issue. I don't think it's helpful to simplify the language to the reductionist point that you are when it comes to such a complex debate. I don't think this is something we should be doing in sound bites. I think it's something we should do with deep and thorough conversation. Unfortunately, right now isn't the time for that conversation, though I would love to engage with any questions you had at a later point in time, rather than getting into hashing out the age-old pro-life versus pro-choice debate right here on polling day. I feel like something like that completely just takes the sting and takes the power out of the shock jock Avi Yemeni. I'm going to rock up onto your polling booth and have a go at you. But when she starts going, this is harassment, it did just seem like a case of not spending that much time in enemy territory and not really having the defensive skills to be able to equip yourself in battle. But if you spend significant time with a community that has not voted Labor before, then you become a real big asset because you can speak a second language and you can understand them. For me, I'm not politically conservative, but I guess I am religiously conservative, so I operate with a lot of political conservatives in religious circles, and I just cringe all the time when I see Labor messaging that is just, yay, secular humanism, boo, religious conservatism. It makes my blood boil because you are needlessly alienating a huge supporter base that would have plenty of justification to vote for Labor when it came to economic justice, as you can see in the Bible. If you want to learn more about James Scullin, just chuck an application into the Balcaldon Academy, and we look a lot at the machinations of the Victorian Labor Party, particularly when it came to the Catholics being incorporated. But my question for you is, what's a banner or a tent of people that you can bring into the Labor Party that exists in this isolated enclave that the Labor Party hasn't touched that well? For me, rugby league. If you don't know much about it, it is saturated with One Nation voters. But if you look at the history of the game, it's a working class rebellion against the elitism of rugby union. And then you've got all of these Labor stories, particularly, the most prominent one would be Russell Crowe, big fan of the Labor Party, Albanese, Labor guy as well. Christina Keneally would be another one that came together to save the Rabbitohs. Now, there were some Liberals that were involved in that as well. Albanese is the most famous face. There's lots of fertile soil to be able to get rugby league people to get behind the Labor Party and to get behind the vision of a Labor government. Now, as a rugby league fan, that has been sometimes seeding ground that I would probably disagree with. So I have no issue with Albanese storming the field when it came to Alex Johnston's try. The bulk of the rugby league community found that to be out of touch. I'm not going to die on that hill. I'll find other grounds to try and persuade people within the rugby league community as to why I think Labor best represents their cultural identity in a way that is simply just much stronger than One Nation. When I think of someone like Friendly Geordies, he brought in a lot of anti-SJWs under the Labor banner, which seemed unthinkable in 2018. I was one of those. I was like, Labor, they're full of SJWs and trigger warnings and, all those buzzwords that were thrown around in the late 2010s. Friendly Geordies made the case. He's like, no, you can find them annoying, but here's why the policy is just so much better than the Liberal Party. He actually made the case that the Liberal Party embodied that way of thinking a lot more than the Labor Party. And it's quite surprising. Obviously, he's since changed his position quite a fair bit. 2022 election. I remember Isaac Butterfield endorsing the Labor Party for the 2022 election, and his justification for it was that Labor were better protectors of free speech than the Liberal Party. And that would have been unthinkable in 2018 or 2019. And that was Friendly Geordie's doing. He made the case, and obviously he had to quite literally sacrifice himself on the hill of Bruz to illustrate that point and to show that point. But there are plenty of reachable people that can be brought under the banner of Labor. You don't need to wait till you're in government to go ahead and just start bringing those people under the banner. And then when you make your pre-selection bid, you make that case. And let me tell you, exec loves to see it. It's worked historically, it worked for James Scullin, and it will make you unavoidable. You have to be put forward because you are bringing so many people under the banner of the Labor Party. But not only that, James Scullin avoided this mistake that so many people in Labor are making.